Welcome to another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast, featuring the Almighty B Live, the Money Man Scotty D, and your host, the head of creative, Eddie Cool. And without any further ado, let's give it up for the Sports Bros. Hey, what's going on, world? This be your boy Eddie Cool, aka the HOC, at your favorite podcast, none other than the Sports Bros Podcast. This is episode number 93. Up, fellas, in traditional countdown fashion, famous number 93s. Be Live. What's the famous number 93?
Oh man, I'm ready this time. John Randle. Hall of Famer, yes sir.
All right, John Randle. Scotty D, who from the Cowboys is a famous number 93?
The Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl in 93.
Hey, good year.
Boo.
Oh, boy.
And John Randle, I was going to say, anybody say John Randle yet? John Randle.
Wow.
John Randle, you guys are wild. Let's see. Other famous number 93s are all-time sack great Dwight Freeney, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts, and my personal favorite, number 93, Doug Gilmour, hockey player of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, famous number 93s. And ladies and gentlemen, episode number 93 of the Sports Bros Podcast is underway. You heard the other two hosts I'm with, so I might as well go ahead and formally introduce them. First up, the Almighty B Live.
What's happening? What's going on in the world today? New week, new episode, new president. Won't get into that. Either way, a slight sense of normalcy, not really. It's still crazy out there. 2021 feels like an extension of 2020 as we predicted, but we're going to keep doing what we do. And also, we're just going to introduce that other guy that's on the show as well. We might be lucky to have him. You know what I'm saying?
All right. And the other guy hanging out with us as well, too, the pride of Washington, Pennsylvania. None other than the one, the only, the Money Man, Scotty D.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. What a weekend to not be a Tom Brady hater. Oh, my goodness. They are in revolt around the country today. Those people that hate Tom Brady are hating this next 2 weeks. Oh man, let's get into that, man, because fortunately I don't hate him, so I'm not losing my mind here, but some people out there are losing it hating on Tom Brady.
All right, but before we go into that, this past week we lost a legendary, iconic figure, not only in sports but in American history. The former home run king Hank Aaron passed away at age 86 earlier this week. He was the OG home run king when he built 715 home runs. I think that when he built it was in Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. He was nicknamed the Hammer or Hammerin' Hank. He spent 21 seasons with the Milwaukee/Atlanta Braves in the National League. 2021 is doing some 2020-ish kind of things. Be Live. Any memories of Hank Aaron?
Man, I'm just going to say this simply put. A lot of people out there like to say, not my this and not my dad. No offense to Barry Bonds, but Hank Aaron will forever and always be my home run king. The dude did it in an era and a time that was a little tumultuous, a little controversial, not as controversial as Barry Bonds, of course, but man, oh man, his accomplishments, his achievements in baseball, to me, are second to none. We lost a true legend. Thank you, Hank Aaron, for everything that you have done for baseball. There's so many players in this world that might not be in the leagues and might not have done what they have done if it wasn't for your accomplishments. We thank you for what you have given us in the sport of baseball. Rest in peace. Yes, sir.
Yeah, 25 times this guy was an all-star. He did reach the pinnacle and win a World Series. He was a batting champion, home run leader. I mean, obvious, no doubt Hall of Famer. And to me, I just always remember the iconic image of him running around the bases with the two guys that popped out of the stands and were running with him. You know, that's just always like the first image that pops into my mind when I think of Hank Aaron. So, yeah, we lost a good one there. It's been a rough start for baseball legends here of this year. You know, we lost Don Sutton, Tommy Lasorda, Hank Aaron. It's been a rough start, but rest in peace, Hammer and Hank.
And one of his quotes, he said, "I'm hoping someday that some kid, black or white, will hit more home runs than myself. Whoever it is, I'd be pulling for him." We pretty sure you are, Hank Aaron. Once again, Hank Aaron, gone at the age of 86. All right, getting back on track. Let's talk about these here AFC and NFC championship game, fellas. How y'all feel about that?
Let's talk about it.
All right, let's talk about that. Go ahead and get it out the way. Okay, there's only two, so it ain't gonna be much to talk about. We have the first game, which was Tampa Bay and Green Bay. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady and them, Tampa Bay, as some people call them. They win 31-26 over Green Bay at home. People thought they had the advantage. Scotty D, what's your takeaways from this game?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in this game. No pun intended, but let me just say, I'm hearing a lot of complaining, or been seeing a lot of complaining about the officiating. Let me just say, stop it when it comes to that. Just stop it. Because that's not why the Packers lost that game. At the end of the first half, there was a call missed on Aaron Rodgers threw the ball and was intercepted at midfield. There was a call missed on an interception. And if I was a Packer fan, I would be mad about that. But you know what else I would be mad about would be the fact that right after that interception, they gave up a 4th and 4 with 13 seconds to go, and on the following play, allowed a guy to get behind the defense and Scotty Miller and score a touchdown. And that was, to me, the biggest sequence of the game. Yes, I do think there should have been a pass interference called or a holding on that play. And yes, I also think there should have been at the end of the game, whenever the interference was called. Now, what I think really makes Packers fans crazy was on that final play of the game when the Buccaneers had 3rd and 4. Brady throws a pass over his receiver's head, and it seemed like forever before the flag came out. And I think that is kind of what made that situation even worse. I don't know if the referee couldn't pull it out. Maybe it was frozen to his hip because they weren't throwing a lot of flags in that game. The frozen tundra factors in. I don't know. It took a while, but the replay clearly showed that I think it was Kenny King, the same guy that got beat early in the game, grabbed the jersey not once but twice, and then had the flag thrown on him. You know, maybe the pass wasn't catchable. I don't know, but the fact is, you're not allowed to grab the jersey, and that was a good call. But when you look at the fact that the Buccaneers converted 9 of 14 third downs, including that 4th and 4, in addition to the 4th and 4, Brady had 3 picks, guys, in the second half. You know how many points Green Bay converted? They converted 6, 1 touchdown, missed a 2-point conversion, and then 3 and out after the second 2 interceptions by Brady. If you're not capitalizing at home on those type of things, then you're going to have a hard time winning that game.
Oh yeah, without question. This is again one of those moments, very rare moments that myself and the money man Scotty D are on the same page. Yes, we could talk about officiating all day, just because there was 2 holding pass interference calls. One was called, one was not. The hesitation, everything, this, that, and the third. But literally, when it comes to capitalizing on the turnovers, like you said, 3 interceptions in the second half by Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers, I'm still believing he's going to be MVP this year.
Agreed.
Just he could not capitalize, and that's another thing I want to mention. The MVP of the league, 48 touchdowns, I believe 6 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers. I'm gonna mention in just a second. But it seems like the firing of New York Jets defense coordinator Greg Williams, his his incarnate, his doppelganger, and Mike Pettin. Just okay. What? Why? Why? I think it was 6 seconds ago when that play consisted. There's only one thing they can do. They could throw a Hail Mary, or they could get 15, 20 yards and kick a field goal. What you don't let happen is what
exactly
is you let the wide receiver get behind you, and what it looked like it possibly could have been cover one. In that,
no safety help there at all. You're right.
Just like, and let me mention this real quick. To my man Kevin King, victim. You were victimized the entire game, bro. And somebody needs to do their research. Scotty Miller, he runs a 4.3 40. You might need to give him just a little bit of help on that particular play. He's not a big time wide receiver, but you literally gave that man no help. He beat him off the
straight go route.
Rip. And I think it also could have been. I don't think it was press coverage, but literally, like, give that man that cushion. And again, number one rule for cornerbacks, defensive back, safeties: you don't let anybody behind you in that particular play. And y'all just failed on every aspect of the word. The play calling, the defensive scheme, whatever Kevin King was doing, that right there changed the game. That's the difference in the score. Period. Everything that happened after that, everything subsequent after that was literally part of why they had to come back from so far, which they actually did, but still didn't do enough to win the game. And I'm going to conclude my rant with this. Once again, I say, Aaron Rodgers, most likely the MVP of this year, 48 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. You put the ball in that man's hands when the game is on the line. Why? Please, somebody answer. Why? Just kick a field goal with 2 minutes to go and literally put the weight of the world on your defense to stop Tom Brady in this particular situation. He doesn't even have to score. He has to get a first down and the game is over. That's all he has to do. He doesn't have to score. He has to get a first down. For a man that has played, and I want to say he's played in 13 conference championship games, and all he has to do is score, get a first down.
I'll answer that if you would like me to. If you'd like me to.
Go for please.
Okay, here's why. I completely understand that. Everyone is killing LaFleur over that decision today. And I understand why, if you need 8 yards right there and you have the MVP of the league, why everyone feels like they should have gone for it. Here's why I think it wasn't as poor a decision as everyone else is saying. Early in the game, Green Bay had 1st and goal from the 6-yard line. They couldn't score. In the second half, after that turnover, they scored a touchdown. They went for 2. They could not convert. That your boy Equanimous, or whatever his name is, he dropped the ball in the end zone. At that point, they were on the 8-yard line. They had 3 plays and couldn't score. That's 7 plays from 8 yards and in over the course of the game that they could not get the ball into the end zone. Either way, he was going to need more than 6 points plus 1. 6 points and an extra point was not going to get it done. If say they go for it there and don't get it, you say, all right, they're going to be pinned deep. We're still going to have a chance to get the ball and the 2-point conversion. Well, if they don't get the 2-point conversion, then they're out of time for getting the ball back and getting more points. Tom Brady in the second half had played terribly. The defense was tightening up on Tampa Bay. I don't think it's out of the question to think with 4 timeouts, 3 in the 2-minute warning, getting a stop here, getting the ball back, and then driving for the win. Was that egregious a decision? Now, I understand why people were saying it is. I'm not completely saying, he made the complete right decision by kicking the field goal, because obviously he didn't. It didn't work out. But considering the failures 7 times in over the course of the game, to be able to score from 8 yards and in, I can understand why he was saying, let's get the points now, let's get the ball back, and let's come back and win the game with a touchdown and not needing the 2-point conversion, because we're going to need the extra points either way. I think the worst decision was when Aaron Rodgers broke the pocket and had wide open space to the right corner of the end zone. He could have run the ball in. I mean, Aaron Rodgers doesn't run like he used to, but he still runs pretty well. Man, he could have scored. At the very worst, it's 4th and 2, and then I think you most definitely go for it rather than trying to pick up the 8 yards. So I think the worst decision was made by Aaron Rodgers and throwing that ball on the third and 8 play than there was for taking the points.
All right, yo. All right, you know what, Scotty D, you redeemed yourself at the end. You redeemed yourself at the end, because I was definitely also going to make that point that there were a lot of times that definitely could have made a better decision, made it a closer, not such a hard decision, be it for 4th and 8 as opposed to 4th and 2, 4th and 3. Yeah, that was an ill-advised throw by Aaron Rodgers. But still, at the end of the day, no matter what analytics you go through, you still, even going for a field goal, you still have to stop them and score yet another touchdown, which puts you back in the same position that you were already in. If you go for it and don't get it, you still have to get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. If you go for it, get the touchdown, but don't get the 2-point conversion, you have to stop them and then get a field goal. Either way, you're that close, you got to go for it all. And because you still left yourself in the same situation, the same boat that you were in. You still had to score. You either had to score again with a touchdown, or you had to score a touchdown and 2-point conversion, or you actually tie up the game, and now you just have to stop them from scoring, as opposed to putting the ball in Tom Brady's hands with 2 minutes, 6 seconds to go, and all he has to do is to get a first down. So that's the part that I just don't agree with, that you have to go for it all in that situation. And you literally took the ball out of the MVP's hands, which means, because I get it. You went for it 3 times, 1st and goal on the 8, 2nd and goal on the 8, 3rd and goal on the 8, and you gained no yardage. I get that little bit. But the analytics it does not show where a field goal benefits anybody but Tom Brady in that situation, because Tom Brady did a lot to keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. Trust me.
Yeah,
he tried.
Yeah, and I understand, and I'm not like full-fledged debating that debate, because, like I said, obviously it worked out. It did not work out the way he was hoping. So, hindsight's 2020. Here we'll say it flat didn't work the way he was going with it. So I get it. I'm not like fully arguing against going for it there, because, like you said, you have a chance right there. You're all in, and if you get it, then you go for the tie. But what my point I think I'm really trying to make is that I think too much blame for losing that game is coming down to that decision, when there were plenty of other reasons to, there's plenty of blame to go around. I mean, Aaron Jones fumbles the ball. He turns over, and that ends up giving them a touchdown. On that first the time they were down in the red zone, well, actually they scored their first touchdown, but then the one I was referencing earlier, Devontae Adams had a touchdown in his hand. It was a little behind him. He dropped it on 1st down. Rodgers tried to throw him a second one on 2nd down, gets batted down. He throws a 3rd one to him, and I thought that he possibly could have got both feet down in the back of the end zone, and he did not. So, it's not all on that one decision. It's not all on one player. It's not all on the referees. This was a cumulative effort for a game that I felt Green Bay was going to win handily at home with the best player in the league, with the team that was playing better than anyone else in football for the last month and a half or so. To me, it's a squandered opportunity. And after the game, when I hear Aaron Rodgers saying, wasn't my decision, to me, it wasn't deflecting enough away from that decision. I think Aaron Rodgers, he didn't outright throw his coach under the bus, but he also just, I didn't like, what do you think? I didn't like the way Aaron Rodgers was mopey and sad and woe is me after the game.
Well, before you go into that, fellas, of course, when you turn that ball over 3 times, man, you got to turn them. You got to get one
Yes.
turnover.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
have to do that. And then like Green Bay, I don't know, what was it, too cold? Was it a high pressure situation? Just like you said, Scotty D, Green Bay had everything pointed, the advantage, Green Bay Packers, the temperature, the talent, and everything, but apparently it didn't go his way. Oh, go ahead, Be Live. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Your point is perfect. I just want to make a side comment because I'm glad you said you didn't like the Aaron Rodgers little mopey situation. This is what I want to say real quick. I want these same so-called press and senators. I want them to keep that same energy that they had with Cam Newton not falling on that fumble, with the same energy that Aaron Rodgers not running the ball in that situation. I want to make sure that is perfectly clear because he had very much an opportunity to gain yardage, make it a lot closer, or he could have probably made it into the end zone, but he didn't even try. He bailed out, which again leaves very little confidence with your coach. I agree with it shouldn't all be on the coaching, but it's 90% of it.
I don't know about 90% because Aaron Rodgers didn't get it done down there.
They were down by 18 points, and they brought it into a one possession game.
Well, but you're kind of arguing against yourself. You're saying you want to hear more. Everyone kind of blamed Cam and jumped on Cam for that. Aaron Rodgers is like one of the quarterbacks that whenever he loses doesn't get as much blame heaped on him as other quarterbacks do. It's all McCarthy's fault. It's all LaFleur's fault. Doesn't have running game. His receivers aren't that good. They didn't help him in the draft. There's a lot of stuff that goes against a lot of quarterbacks, but it doesn't seem to be held. Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to be held to the flame as much as other guys.
But that's where my 10% was.
And he's 7-8 in his last 15 playoff games.
1-4 in
1-4 in championships. Yeah, the same as Rex Grossman and Donovan McNabb, guys who weren't supposed to be as good as Aaron Rodgers. I mean, at some point, come on now, let's stop with the deflecting and crying. And I don't know what my future's going to hold. I don't know if I'm going to be back. Come on, Aaron Rodgers, just say, look, man, we lost, we got beat, and stop with the whining and crying because it's not. He's acting like the Packers may not want him back next year. He's only like a $5 million cap hit. He's not going to be like a cap casualty next year. Come on.
That number is actually 7. I think it's $5 million next year, 17.9 cap hit after that.
Right, but next year, yeah, it's not going to kill him next. I mean, that's your quarterback. He's the MVP. Quit acting like, no, man, I don't know. I'll stop it, Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's the downside of having the chip on the shoulder that Aaron Rodgers had because he wore that chip very well. Again, this is basically just a lot of blame can be thrown around. At the end of the day, Green Bay did not get it done where it should have, and Tom Brady did what needed to be done in the first half and did just enough. And that defense did just the defense. Let me give a shout out to Tampa Bay's defensive line.
Yep.
Because they stayed in Rodgers' face all day long. Jason Pierre, Paul, what was my dude that had 3 sacks? I can't even remember his name now because I'm. But
Vita Vea.
I mean, yeah, Vita Vea. He was an interior lineman. It was an outside. I want to say he was the right defensive end. I can't remember his name. He had 3 sacks. Like they gave.
Was it Shaq Barrett?
Yes, Shaq Barrett. Yeah, man, they gave him hell, and that was the reason why they went 3 and out 2 times after turnovers. Right. That benefited nothing. So at the end of the day, we throw blame here and there, but the Tampa Bay's defensive line did everything to disrupt Green Bay's entire plan. They started doubting themselves. They started doubting each other. There was no trust left, and that's what resulted in them going for a field goal and completely squandering that opportunity. So you know what? No more blame. Let's celebrate.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We need to give more credit because right now we're saying why Green Bay, what they did to not win the game, and not saying that what Tampa Bay did to win their game. And You're right.
Let's celebrate everybody on Tampa Bay except for Tom Brady. All right, I'm good with that. Because as Scotty D mentioned before, I might be one of those haters that just Tom Brady. He's in his 10th Super Bowl. Oh, he's going for ring number 7. I'm so sick of seeing this guy. I was watching one of the sports shows on one of the four letter network, and they said we're watching a live Disney movie.
Wow.
where Giselle is the Disney princess, and Tom Brady is just the knight in shining armor that just keeps winning, and just oh god.
And Brady didn't have his best game on Sunday. He had a very good first half. He looked to me very comfortable, very much in control in the first half. And then he made some really bad decisions and let a couple throws get away from him in the second half. But make no mistake about it, man. He has helped change the culture, just the way that team felt just by walking through the door this year. And, last year we kept saying, man, if Jameis Winston didn't turn the ball over, Tampa could have been a playoff team. Well, Brady walks in and takes care of the football, changes the culture, and they're in the Super Bowl. I mean, come on, man. As a Cowboy fan, I have to admit, I'm hating it because it's been 26 years since we've seen a championship, and Brady's in his first year, and he's 43. So I got to give the guy credit. I'm not going to say, he's the sole reason why Tampa's in the Super Bowl, but he played his position, which is the toughest in sports, pretty well to get him there. Not only that, I'm sorry, but not only that, in the past decade or so, if you say who are the best quarterbacks in the NFL, you're going to say Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees, and he beat 2 of them in their own house on the way to this Super Bowl.
Yep, en route to the doggone Super Bowl. Well, let's say it like this. Since we're looking for reasons why and reasons why not. Green Bay lost the game because they couldn't capitalize off of 3 turnovers. And Tampa Bay won the game because their defense, they were ball hawks. They were all over the place. They was disrupting the whole flow, just like you said, Be Live. And they made things happen. All right, fellas, we're going over to the American Football Conference where we got the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. Had a good smattering of people in the crowd. And, well, of course, Kansas City wins again, 38-24 against the Buffalo Bills. Be Live, what'd you take away from this game?
My takeaway is simply this. I need to get more in tune with Twitter.
That's what you got from
watching
why? A football game?
Oh, yes, I did.
What happened?
You know why? Because I said exactly what I said, and I meant what I said, and I knew that it was going to happen the way it happened before even the commentators and the experts said it. I said when Buffalo went up 9-0, I said Kansas City has done this so many times before. I think last year, every game they played, they were down by 10 or more points and just came right on back. Like it was, and the thing about it was like it was nothing. Like you blink and Kansas City has scored 21 points, and that's exactly what happened. Buffalo, they came out, they got a field goal, they kick off. McCole Hardman fumbles the ball. Buffalo gets it at the 2-yard line, scores, misses the extra point. They're up 9-0. And then next thing you know, it's 21-9 Kansas City.
In the blink of an eye.
It's like, and McCole Hardman redeemed himself in the quickest of fashions. I'm over here like, well, man, hey, to be a professional football player and to have that steely resolve, I had to do it. I had to do it. But man, the way he bounced back just that quickly, and it's ridiculous the amount of talent. If it ain't McCole Hardman, you know what?
Speed.
Tyreek Hill is ridiculous,
man.
Yeah. He's ridiculous with it. I'm just like, can nobody grab this little short, little speedy, little? Oh,
and everybody out there's like, fast too. It's not like he's running against slow guys.
Yeah, these guys are fast. Yeah, he thinks he's a cheater in real life. He's a real life cheater.
Yeah. This was me when I played basketball. Like I wasn't the fastest guy on the court, but if I saw somebody that I was assigned to guard, and this he just wouldn't stop running, I'd pull some old school tactics, grab him by his jersey, I grab him, I'm snatching him. I'm like, no, where you going? Where you going? Oh, you're trying to run it? Where you going? I'd be jabbing all the time, just something to slow them down, and it's just oh man, just as a defensive coordinator, what do?
There's nothing. There's nothing.
You miss you're in the backfield to tackle sack Patrick Mahomes. He'll lose that. Now you've already given not one, not two, not three, not four, 5 different weapons out there more time to elude their defensive assignments and pick your poison at this point in time. Man, it happened, and the reason why I said I need to get more in tune with Twitter is because I literally said it to the guy I was watching the game with right next to me. I said, they've done this before. This is literally nothing that Kansas City can't overcome. I picked Kansas City just because even when they're down, you can't count them out, and they find ways to win. And literally the commentator of the game said it not even 10 seconds after I did. I'm like, I should be in a booth somewhere or something. But it is what it is. Yes, sir.
It's one of them things where Tampa Bay, I mean, not Tampa Bay, but one of them things where Kansas City is just like, got a 10-point lead. That's a nice 10-point lead you got there. I sure would hate it if you lose that little 10-point lead. And then they do what they do. They just do exactly what they do. Todd Bowles, man, he got his hands full. Todd Bowles got his hands full trying to plan for the for the Kansas City Chiefs. Scotty D, did I get your take on this?
Well, you know what I was noticing, Eddie, is a couple times Buffalo drove the field and got down there, and they scored a touchdown. I think at one point kicked a field goal. At one point that I was sitting there thinking that was a grind. They really worked hard, and then Kansas City would get the ball, and it was like zip, zip, zip. They're obviously the more polished, better team. I mean, sometimes just the better team plays better and wins, and that's what happened here, man. It almost felt like, you know, in the past years where Golden State or the Lakers of further years back, you get bored in the regular season and then the playoffs hit and you flip the switch and you're great again. You don't really see that in the NFL. And that's kind of what it felt like with the Chiefs. Like they get to the playoffs, they finally shook off the rust and the boredom of the regular season and just started clicking. And I'm glad B-Live brought up the Mecole Hardman fumble because, like he said, they went right back to him. Credit the coaching staff and Patrick Mahomes for getting down on that goal line saying, let's get this guy the ball, because that kid was despondent after the fumble. He was on the sideline with his jacket over his head. And it was very important, I think, to get that bad flavor out of his mouth and get him back in the game as quickly as they did. That was a nice job for them. Buffalo going forward has a lot of upside, guys, but I think it was obvious, and I actually mentioned this last week, they're going to need a little bit more work, I think, on the running game. Their offensive line got pretty much dominated because Josh Allen was running for his life yesterday, and they just can't run the ball. I think they need a real seriously solid running back. Maybe they find that in the draft. Maybe beef up the offensive line a little bit. And I tell you, Josh Allen has to learn to stop running backwards. I mean, he's done that a couple times in the postseason here. I know that some of these guys, these more athletic running quarterbacks, can get back and scramble away and they zigzag. He's run straight backwards a few times and lost like big chunks of yardage. That's a maturity thing, and I think he'll figure that out. And I think there's a chance we could see this game again next year in the AFC Championship. There's a lot of upside to Buffalo, and I'm sure in retrospect their fans felt like they had a good season, but right now Kansas City is just the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, like I said, man, 10 points, yeah, sure, no problem. But yeah, I agree with you, Scott DB. And Buffalo, that's what I told somebody last night. I said Buffalo has to do something with that run game, man, because that was damn near non-existent. Who was better, TJ Yeldon? Exactly.
Was Devin Singletary not in the game?
He barely.
I don't even know. Milk carton. Have you seen Devin and Singletary? All right, fellas, you know what that means, don't you? Super Bowl 55 double nickel. Also, if you ain't got the rights to use the word Super Bowl, the big old game on Sunday, the 55th version of it, will be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But hold on, Sports Bros, Family Nation, friend, folk, family, and all y'all. We're not going to talk about that right now. We'll give our predictions next week. So, fellas, we know that we have the matchup between the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And like I said, Todd Bowles has his hand full, fellas. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no question. Good luck slowing that down.
it's gonna be interesting to see, is there a way that the defensive line of Tampa Bay can contain
Well,
or put enough pressure on Patrick Mahomes to make him
I'll
make
tell
a
you,
mistake?
without
Because
going too
nobody,
far into the preview, I think that could be a yes, because if you remember yesterday, that the tackle Eric Fisher went down for Kansas City with an Achilles injury. It looks like he may not be there, and I think they had another offensive line injury. So in the trenches,
I think I saw
yeah,
Fisher's out. Yeah,
yeah. So
Fisher's
in the
out.
trenches, it looks like advantage Tampa Bay, just 2 weeks away from the game.
And also for Patrick Mahomes' sake, he gets his little 2-week break. That way he can, if you fellas, like he didn't he didn't miss a beat at all Sunday. But also on top of that, this gives him time to recover from that hamper.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because he was walking around quite gingerly, during the game. I'm like, okay, he has a ginger run, but that didn't. This is Patrick effing Mahomes, and that didn't stop a thing, none whatsoever. So, yep, 2 weeks from this coming Sunday will be Super Bowl 55, aka the big old game, the double nickel version. If you ain't got the rights, NFL, don't sue us, because guess what? We ain't got it. All right, and that's it for NFL, fellas. The Super Bowl is upon us. Can you believe it already?
Let's do it.
Man, oh man, I don't like it. We've got only one more game of football left, and then somehow I got to figure out a way to get into the CFL. Pepper Point applied. You will hear that later on in the show.
That wasn't the only thing getting beat up this past weekend. As Scotty D, what was it? UFC 257, correct?
Abu Dhabi.
Yep, back on Fight Island once again, fighting all over the place. The main event, we had Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, and Conor McGregor wound up leaving, taking an L, of course, and he wound up leaving, walking on a cane. Scotty D, can you opine to us what exactly happened with the leg of one said Conor McGregor?
Ooh, he got that leg chopped. Listen, I tell you what, man, Conor McGregor is probably currently the best fight salesman in the game. He was a pretty heavy favorite going into this fight. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why. I actually, a while back, Eddie, I said, Conor has a lot of inactivity. And I said, I wish he would stop tweeting and talking trash, because he's not actually fighting. I said, since he's been good, a lot of these other fighters have caught up to him, and I said, there's a lot of these guys now that he wouldn't beat. And Poirier is one of those guys that was kind of on my mind at the time. Conor McGregor knocked out Poirier in September of 2014. That was a long time ago. After that, Poirier went on a 5-fight win streak. He then lost to a guy named Michael Johnson. I still can't figure out how he lost that one. That was in September of 2016. Now, since that loss in 2016, listen to this list of guys that he's beaten: Jim Miller, Eddie Alvarez, Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, and Dan Hooker. He lost to Khabib, but everybody loses to Khabib. In that same amount of time, Conor had he split a pair of fights, also lost to Khabib. He lost to Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match. He retired 10 times, beat Cowboy Cerrone up a year ago. I mean, and for him to be the favorite going into this fight just surely shows that his past power is respected, and he's just the best fight salesman in the game. I actually had bet Poirier on this a while ago, and I wish I had waited, because the odds would have been better. I'd have won a little bit more money on it. But Poirier is the superior fighter right now. Conor McGregor, he said afterwards, I need a little bit more time. I haven't had enough time in the octagon, and it showed. And, I just haven't had time. Well, first of all, that's your own fault, because you have not been fighting. You've been sitting around selling proper number 12 and, retiring on Twitter. But he's not as good a fighter as these other guys, Eddie. He's just not. Justin Gaethje fought Khabib not too long ago. He wouldn't beat Gaethje or Khabib. He already shown he can't beat Khabib. And we don't know if Khabib's coming back or not, but I would say he probably is not. So we're probably going to have a title fight between Poirier, because Poirier won this. Dustin Poirier won this fight, so he's probably the top guy right now. There's a new guy named Michael
Mm.
Chandler that came in from Bellator and had a big knockout win over Dan Hooker the other night. And there's also a guy by the name of Charles Oliveira, who I talked about a few weeks ago, beat up Tony Ferguson pretty good. So we're going to have a new champion. I think this is all to the detriment of the UFC because Conor McGregor helped make this one of the top selling UFCs, I think, in their history. This guy is box office. He brings the dramatic and the flair. And had he caught Poirier in the first round with a punch and put him down, he'd be riding high, and they probably would be selling the Khabib fight because Khabib probably would come back to fight McGregor. At this point, that's out the window. That's not anything anyone's interested in seeing. I think Conor McGregor is probably a loss away from being like an afterthought. If he fights another one of these top guys and loses again, it's going to be harder and harder for him to sell those big time fights. I understand that Conor's been a hard worker in the past, and he probably will go back to the drawing board and say, I'm going to come back bigger and stronger than ever. And he'll be running his mouth and stirring things up again. And we'll get all excited. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I even bought into the hype this week and said, I think Conor might knock him out in the second round. I actually said that to a couple people. I don't know why I said that because my money had already been put on Poirier, but McGregor he wraps you up into this great wave of hype. And Dana White said it in the week. He said Conor is more serious and dedicated than I've seen him, and he's the real deal now. And then he went out and he got beat in the second round convincingly. So where Conor goes from here, I don't know. Maybe he fights Diaz again. Maybe he fights somebody else that gives him maybe he fights Manny Pacquiao. I don't know, but it's disappointing to see that hype train end because it is a lot of fun, but the superior fighter won that fight.
Well, see, that's the thing about the fight game, man. You have to you got to be on your game, man. You have to be on your game, and somebody got to win and somebody got to lose. But between thugging it out and throwing dollars through windows and getting in, didn't he get into a fight with an old dude at a pub or something like that?
Stupid, yeah.
Yeah, Conor Mania doing everything, and then it's just your outside ventures. It's the classic case of, how can I say it? Like, okay, Master P made it to the top of the music industry and made it to the top, via the music. And then Master P started dabbling into, films and sports agencies and all this other stuff and lost focus of what got him there in the first place. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Conor McGregor. I mean, if you can do it all, by God, do it all and be great at it. But then again, don't forget what, and don't forget that butter that you put on that bread is the fight game. The fight game got you here. And I understand, marketing and everything. And like you say, Scotty D, he could put a butt, every 18 inches in seats once people, get back to normal. All these other guys like, look, I'm here to fight. Yeah, I can make a little name and make a little money, but while he's glitz and glamour and Johnny Hollywood in the face of the in the face of the league, I'm over here putting in work and practicing and sacrifices, actually putting in the work to fight and fight only. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's only so much paparazzi.
Well, yeah, when you become all glitz and glamour and not as much substance, and I tell you, Dana White made what I think is like the perfect reference to in his press conference after. And he said, this is like a real life version of Rocky 3. When you remember Rocky was the young, hungry, up and coming fighter, he gets to the top. When he fought in Rocky 3, he was in a mansion. He wasn't hungry anymore. He lost the eye of the tiger. He had to go back to that. And that's almost where Conor is. Conor was at one point the young, hungry Irish kid with a big mouth that was backing it up, and he's knocking guys out, and he's box office. Then in his last, he's what 3-3 in his last 6 fights. And at some point, it starts to become noise instead of interesting. If you're not doing this stuff and then winning. That's what the great Muhammad Ali did. He talked trash and then backed it up. And then when he lost to somebody, he went and beat him in a rematch. It's maybe Conor gets another crack at Poirier. I just think if they fight again, Poirier is He's too smart at this point, too seasoned. Whereas when he lost to him back in 2014, he kind of mixed up in Conor's game. And whereas in this fight, whenever Conor was strong and come at the beginning of the fight coming in, Poirier took him down and dirty boxed and clinched with him for a whole round and tired his arms out a little bit, and then it went to that leg kick and just destroyed his leg. And I just think these fighters now have come a long way in the last 6 to 7 years, and Conor has not.
Yeah, it's a classic case of the game
Yes,
catching up to you, and when the game catches up with you, it's like, ooh wee, wait a minute. So there was an announcement made for UFC 260. I know I'm skipping ahead, Scotty D. No, we're gonna get a fight. We're gonna get the heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic versus that big, mean, and the African Francis Ngannou. That's gonna be on Saturday, March 27th. UFC 260. Scotty D.
Man, this is UFC just doesn't ever leave you wanting from. Well, actually, they always leave you wanting from. They just keep loading things up. I mean, there's always going to be fights that they're stacking up. There's going to be Kamaru Usman taking on Gilbert Burns here next month. I mean, there's always UFC just always keeps putting on shows, man. And I'm excited for 2021, man. They already got us off to a good start. That was exciting the other night. And I tell you, this Michael Chandler that made his debut in UFC the other night did so with an impressive knockout over an extremely tough guy. So he's another guy to be excited about.
Yep. I think then we also have Blade.
Yeah,
and
that
Lewis
was
as well,
a fight that was supposed to happen in December, I think, and got erased by COVID. So hopefully we'll get that fight here too.
Yep, hey man, the UFC is starting round to be a pretty good 2021, just as you said. And Scotty D, guess what else is looking good around this time? Man, well, you too, but our favorite part of the show.
All right.
The choice of the voices. Yes, sir. And with that being said, hey yo button, hit it.
And now, our favorite part of the show, the choices of the voices.
Once again, thank you to the wonderful and ever so lovely Ms. Button for introducing our favorite portion of the show. You heard the woman, the choices of the voices section. That's right. Something we live for all week. Something I check our Facebook like page, the Sports Bros Podcast, which you need to go check out as well too, because we got a lot of fun stuff on there. We're always having fun on there as well too. Yeah, I'm so excited about this. I love this segment of the show. I love seeing the banter back and forth with the listeners as they go back and forth with each other and go back and forth with us, but we don't discuss it too much. We save the best part for the podcast, because that's what you're here for. You're here to listen to episode number 93 of the Sports Bros Podcast. All right, Scotty D, enough of my incoherent rambling. What's the question for this week's choices of the voices?
So this week I asked asked our listeners who they felt was the worst team, or least impressive, I guess we should say, least impressive team to win a Super Bowl. There are 54 to choose from. It's been done 54 times. Which of those 54 teams did you feel was the least impressive? And again, that's kind of a tough question, because if you've won a championship, it's impressive to do that. Just looking for the one that people thought was kind of the weakest. So what do we get there, Eddie Cool? Anybody answer us?
Yeah, we got a few answers, and that's a very interesting point, Scotty D. It's kind of like you won a Super Bowl, but looking back at history, we go, nah. So
yeah, it's a lot easier to say, man, that was the best team of all time. But how about the worst winner? I mean, that's kind of what we're asking you.
Yeah, just meh. All right, Trey Dizzle. He said the Eagles versus the Patriots. He talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, stumbled into the playoffs with a backup quarterback, Nick Foles, who wasn't even good enough to start on a bad team outside of Philly. Chicago, Jacksonville, you might be on to something. They were horrible on defense and mediocre on offense. They just hit a good streak and got super lucky. Horrible defense by both teams ended in one defensive strip sack to seal the game that was insanely hard to watch if you like defense at all. Okay, so that's the 2018 Philadelphia Eagles. No one saw that.
Yeah, that was one of those teams that just got hot at the right time, and it was just a perfect storm. Again, you can't take a whole lot away from Nick Foles' performance, but he was just in the zone, man. It's just one of those things. It's not like that team was bad, but they were not, I don't think, considered to be the favorite to win the Super Bowl going in there by any means. Actually, I think that year the Saints were really good. I'm not sure if the Rams were quite there yet, but yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that answer.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those teams that's like, nah. All right, so here we go. Bradley Piper, what's going on, Bradley? He said the 1996 Dallas Cowboys were clearly the worst/weakest team to have won the Lombardi. Scotty D, was that Super Bowl 30, if I'm not mistaken? Yep, and that's where Larry Brown was the MVP because somehow Neil O'Donnell thought that Larry Brown was his teammate.
That's what happened. He this is a dig at the Cowboys from a Steeler fan. This is my buddy from college, and I've had to listen to this for years about how the Cowboys were lucky to win that Super Bowl. The Cowboys were leading that game at halftime, 13-7. They were up 6 at half. They finished, the final score was 27-17. They won by 10. They actually expanded the lead in the second half. And everyone acts like, well, if it wasn't for it, well, you know what? Your quarterback threw 3 interceptions, and my quarterback threw 0. That's all part of the game, my friends. It's all part of the game. It can't be hating because my team didn't make as many mistakes as your team did. That was the quarterback that brought you to the Super Bowl. Now, I'll say this about that Cowboys team. Of the 3 that won, they won those 3 out of 4. That was the weakest of the 3. At that point, free agency had started to chip away at them. That the coaching staff was completely different. Obviously, Barry Switzer was there instead of Jimmy Johnson. Norv Turner and Dave Wannstedt had both moved on, I believe, at that point. And that's what happens to all good teams. Once you start winning, then they start, other teams start picking away at your coordinators and your free agents, and that's what happened. So that Cowboy team was not as dominant as the back-to-back one from 2 years prior, but I'm not sorry about it. I'm not sad that Neil O'Donnell threw Larry Brown a couple balls. I'm glad he caught him.
Yeah, like I said, he must have thought somehow, some way that they were teammates in another lifetime. And I was like, I remember being a young kid, and I was like, oh, this guy stinks. Yeah, did Neil O'Donnell ever get a job after that?
Well, he actually, after that season, he signed a big contract with the Jets. They wanted him to be their guy. He got himself a big deal, and Pittsburgh didn't want to match it because they had Cordell Stewart in the pipeline. And I mean, Cordell was a good player. He just wasn't like a every down quarterback. And then, yeah, that was kind of the end of that. The Neil O'Donnell thing. He actually became a pretty good back. I think he backed up Steve McNair in Tennessee, like you mentioned, and I'm not sure if he bounced around anywhere else. But I tell you, that year, coming down the stretch and going into the playoffs, Neil O'Donnell was playing pretty darn good. They were running a lot of like 4 and 5 receivers, spreads, and he was slinging it around, man. And he just had a couple bad decisions. The one throw in that Super Bowl, I think the second one was the more questionable of the two. And one of and who knows if it was the receiver's fault for not being in the spot he thought he was going to be in. I never obviously interviewed Neil O'Donnell and got to the bottom of that, but the Cowboys brought a blitz. He threw the ball to what he thought was a hot read, and he threw to Larry Brown, and I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he did it twice.
Yeah, like I said, they thought they were teammates. All right, moving on from that, we got Rodney Bellamy. He said, tough one. I wanted to say the Trent Dilfer Ravens, but their defense was so good. So I'm going to have to go with Super Bowl 50. All right, because Super Bowl 50 was the Denver Broncos led by Peyton Manning versus the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Rodney. Yeah, 13 for 23 for only 141 yards with no touchdowns passing and 1 interception, but still got a ring. But that's just awful. Yeah, I'm glad you say that, Rodney, because not only am I a Panthers fan and I'm still seething from that loss, but I think that's where the gas tank said. I think that's where the last little bit of Peyton Manning was able to leave it all on the field, because he was struggling trying to throw a pass for 10 yards, and he didn't look good. It was like his arm was dead. He didn't look like the Peyton Manning of old. He didn't look like the Peyton Manning that threw for 50 touchdowns that one year and was on fire.
See, Peyton Manning was slowing down to pretty much the end of his career in that game.
Yeah, because I'm like this is hard to watch because I remember the camera was in on his face and it was like he had to like literally had to will that ball out. So yeah, but then again, Rodney, that Broncos defense was like top tier. Yeah, they if you had them on your fantasy team, you you did a good job on getting them as your squad. So yeah, so you said the Denver Broncos from Super Bowl 50. Craig Burns, he said the 2011 New York Giants gave up more points than they scored and had a 9-7 record.
You know, it's both those Super Bowl runs for Eli Manning felt similar. You know, I think they were wild card teams in both situations and finished by beating the Patriots in both situations. And in neither situation were they the better team on the field. They just got hot and played better at the right time. Those Giants teams were pretty good. They had a pretty decent defense. You know, they had some good guys up front. And I think Brandon Jacobs may have been on that team, Bradshaw.
Justin Tuck, Usiumenora,
maybe Victor Cruz. I think Eli made an incredible throw to Hakeem Nicks down the sideline in that game. That was the second of their Super Bowls. I think the first one was the David Tyree one, and then the second one was the one he made a really nice throw down the sideline. It's either the Mario Manningham or Hakeem Nicks. But anyway, yeah, I mean, a 9-7 team, obviously, not one you think is one of the best to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like you at 9-7, it translates. Look, you barely did enough to get in here,
right?
And we don't expect you to pass the first round, but every time those Giants, their last couple playoff runs, man, they got in and made noise and went all the way to the freaking Super Bowl. All right, Martin Tracy, he said, no way Eli should have 2 Super Bowl rings. I'm just saying, and Pittsburgh should have never won against Arizona and Kurt Warner. Okay, wow. So we got one for the Steelers of that year, and another one for the Giants.
Man, it's those Giants fans. I don't think they care that they're disrespected. They got the 2 rings. I mean, you beat the Patriots, who were considered the dynasty of the era, and they knocked them off twice in the Super Bowl. So good for Eli. I never liked Eli, but good for him.
Yep, they said. I guess they said, well, you know what? That would have been what, ring 7 and 8?
Yeah, probably. If I'm not
mistaken.
I think that's right.
Yeah, they're the only reason why Tom Brady does not have rings. Yeah. Has 8 rings right now. So yeah, to say that's a pretty damn big deal, because a lot of teams about, well, we lost. There's 6 teams. One team he beat. What, did he beat a team twice? No, he lost to a team twice. I'm sorry, but that's a pretty that's pretty something something good to tout about. Yeah, but hey, we stopped him from getting all those rings. All right, so with that being said, shout out to Trey Dizzle, Bradley Piper, Rodney Bellamy, Craig Burns, and Martin Tracy for their participation in this week's edition of the Choices of the Voices. Scotty,
well, I kicked this one around a little bit. I've heard obviously I cannot choose the Jets that won Super Bowl 3 with Joe Namath because I didn't see that game. So I've heard it said that Jets team was overachieving at the end of the season and won that game over the Colts, who are considered the best team in the league and of the era. The Johnny Unitas teams. I think back to Super Bowl, I believe it was 15, where the Raiders became the first team to win a Super Bowl that as a wild card. They beat the Eagles, and Jim Plunkett was their quarterback. I'm going to go with the Ravens of 2000. I think did Rodney mention that team, or was he talking about the more recent team? I think he was talking about the more recent team. That's the one I'm talking about in 2000. And I'm going to say that because I'm talking about the team. The defense was probably the greatest defense ever. The offense went 5 games in the regular season without scoring a touchdown. They were horrendous. They had Tony Banks as quarterback and replaced him with Dilfer, and neither of those guys are going to Canton. I think Jamal Lewis was their running back. He had a couple good years in Baltimore, but that team was a team that won on defense pretty much alone. I can remember a clip where Ray Lewis ran off the field and yelled to his offense don't let them score. I mean, he's saying that to the offense of his team. Don't let the other team score. So,
Wow.
It may seem disrespectful to save that Ravens team just because of how incredibly good the defense was, but the offense offsets that to me and makes that just a defensive Super Bowl win. So, you could almost run that parallel with the Buccaneers of 2002, but I thought they were a little bit more talented on offense. Brad Johnson wasn't a great quarterback, but he was pretty good, and I think they had all-star work done. I just felt like the Ravens team was, and maybe I had a little bit against them because I did not enjoy watching that team at all, play football at all. I just didn't like that team. Your turn, buddy.
Yeah, I'm with you, Scotty D, man. I've also have kicked this around too, and I'm currently looking at the list. I'm like, well, everybody deserves it, and I'm gonna have to say, man, those same Baltimore Ravens, because like you said, they were the drizzling poots on offense, except for Jamal Lewis, and Jamal Lewis didn't become Jamal Lewis until a couple years down the road. But yeah, can I name one wide receiver from that team? They had some dude from Florida named Travis Taylor. I think Priest Holmes might have been on that team before he became Priest Holmes. Yeah, other than that, it was Ray and Chris McAllister and the Goose and all those other guys, man. Yeah, like you said, that defense was the one that, if you could say like that defense was the sole reason why they won the Super Bowl and why they got to where they got to, then that's it. Because I forgot like what they had at that time. They had like a league record. I think what teams scored like no
it was
more than
they averaged
50,
giving up
points?
like 10.3 points a game or something like that. They gave up 10 a game. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, they gave up like 10 a game and that defense was stout.
But they didn't even win their division.
It was just
the Tennessee Titans won that division, and they did beat the Titans in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that year, but like I said, they went 5 games without scoring a touchdown. They were winning because Stover was kicking field goals.
Yeah, how in the hell do you that? Yeah, that. Could we say that was a weak year for football? No, not really. But for you to have Tony Banks as your quarterback and then Trent Dilfer to come in and be serviceable at best, like I said, I can't remember a single wide receiver. Was Todd Heap on the team?
Well, and not only that, but they beat the Giants in the Super Bowl that year, and that was the Kerry Collins Giants. It wasn't even a great Giants team that they beat, but they smoked them. They beat them 34-7. I think the Giants ran a kickback for a touchdown. I think that was their only score.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't probably the most fun year for football for me.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I saw some a while back, Scotty D. Oh, I think the year 2000 was the year of the running back. I'll share that video with you, and I'll also share it with our listeners as well too on the Facebook site. It was a good year for running backs, but apparently a putrid year for the Baltimore Ravens offense. Yeah, I don't even want to look at the numbers, but it was just people just think about the Ravens defense. Oh, they had offense too? Oh, yeah, that is right. So yeah. So the defense played offense,
they won the wild card game against Denver 21-3. They beat the Titans in the division around 24-10. And then they beat the Raiders in the championship 16-3. And the Super Bowl, they gave up the 1 touchdown on a return. So it looks like they gave up 1 touchdown in those 4 postseason games, which is unbelievable. Again, maybe the best defense of all time. You might throw the 85 Bears in there. That's pretty close, but just the offense was ridiculously terrible.
Yeah, the offense. So, all right, Scotty D. Actually, then we have this little one down here between the Rams and the Patriots. Of all the Patriots teams, this one looked the least.
Where'd that one come from? Who wrote that? Oh, yeah. Oh, that was just another one you were considering.
Me.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, but that Patriots team itself was a pretty good team. That was just a lousy game.
Yeah. Oh my God, that game was lousy.
Horrible Super Bowl.
I was like, I'm not entertained. I'm not entertained. And then and then KC and San Fran made up last year, was a good one. So once again, we got KC and this time Tampa Bay playing in the big game this year.
Hey, what say you, B-Live? Who'd you pick for this week? All right. Well, those are some very interesting answers, and yeah, we've had some pretty disappointing teams. It's hard to say disappointing when you're talking about the winner of the Super Bowl, because I mean, you have to be better than 31 other teams, but there are some teams that are just really knock it out of the park. And yes, some of those teams that have been mentioned, yeah, not so much. But I'm very, 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 very surprised that I did not hear something that just happened very recently. And that's going to be my answer for this week's question. I cannot believe that nobody mentioned the 2018-2019 New England Patriots. It gets lumped into the fact that yes, Tom Brady won his sixth ring, most all-time GOAT, blah blah blah, and the fact he's going back to another Super Bowl. We've talked about that ad nauseum already, but you know what? It is what it is. I digress a little bit, but check this out. Check this out. That year that they made it to the Super Bowl, they clinched their division, of course, but they also clinched the number 2 seed and a first round bye, which number 2 seed had a first round bye back then. It's only 2 years ago, 3 years ago, only 2 years ago. But yeah, well, with an 11-5 record, let me put that in perspective real quick. An 11-5 record was sitting at home this year in the AFC, and they had an expanded playoff. Granted, they won the division. They'd have made the playoffs anyway. But for them to be a number 2 seed, wow. So, the AFC wasn't really that strong that year. But, that's why I just want to put that out there. Their MVP was, the MVP of the Super Bowl was Julian Edelman. I mean, I know y'all. I mean, Julian Edelman's had some good years and everything. I mean, he redefined the definition of the slot receiver. But for him to win the MVP of the Super Bowl was interesting. But I digress. On this team with Tom Brady, leading the team, whatever. Only 2 players had over 1,000 scrimmage yards. Perspective again, comparison. This year, the Carolina Panthers had 4 players. Just remind you, it's just two seasons later, same style of football, but and the 2 players that had over 1,000 scrimmage yards were both running backs. And wow. So maybe it's the level of talent, the style of play. I mean, at the end of the day, New England's defense really carried them that year, which has been some of the tales of some of the teams that have been mentioned. But yeah, that was not impressive. Then that Super Bowl itself, 13-3. Oh my God, I fell asleep. Whew, it was tough to watch. And also, I'm just take this moment to name the offensive starters for New England during that Super Bowl win. They had Chris Hogan. He's now a Panther now after 2 years. Julian Edelman. I'm not even. Is he still with the Patriots? Might be still with the Patriots. All right. Trent Brown, Joe Thuney, David Andrews, Shaq Mason, Marcus Cannon. Their offensive line. Do we really profess to know that much about offensive linemen? Not really. But I digress again. Gronk was their starting tight end, which you know how he made his move. Now it's with Tampa Bay and blah blah blah. And had Sony Michel and James White as running backs, and James Devlin as their fullbacks. Sony Michel and James White were the only 2 players that had over 1,000 scrimmage yards. So and defense, they were stout. They were definitely stout on defense, but really just was not really impressed with that team. And some of the other Patriot teams that won Super Bowls. Again, Tom Brady has made less more, but yeah, I mean, that's why he's in the GOAT conversation. But yeah, 2018, 2019 Patriots, not impressed, but you still won the big one, 6 rings for Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes, I'm gonna say this again. Please don't let Brady get a 7. Please, pretty please. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Yeah, that's my answer. Yes, sir.
All right, Scotty D, enough of me babbling. What's the question?
All
for
right,
next
going
week's
into
Choices
our
of the
Super
Voices?
Bowl week, Wes, one more Super Bowl question. When you think of the Super Bowl, what do you envision in your mind as the most memorable moment? There's been tons of moments. I mentioned the David Tyree catch on the helmet a few minutes ago. That's one of those ones when you think of like great plays or historic plays in Super Bowl history, just memorable ones that stand out to you. We're just looking for some of those, some great memorable Super Bowl moments from you guys.
Great Super Bowl moments.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot
to choose from. There's
it's
some will stand out more than others.
Yeah, you're right. Some will stand out more than others. And that's it for another edition of Choices of the Voices. All right, well, fellas, it's time to go home, riding the third brace, giving myself the go home cue because that is time for another installment of Pepper. I'm going to do a little something different this time, but you know how we do it. Educational, kind of, sort of, not really. Enlightening, entertaining, and just good old Pepper, just sports-related stuff. And I'll I'll go first. All right, so the Detroit Lions this past week, they found a brand new coach.
Who is the new coach
this guy is
of the Lions?
All right. So as I stated in the previous episode, I'm like, Dan Campbell, who is that? And I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? Why does that name sound so familiar? And then it clicked. I said, oh, he was an old player. He played for the Lions, and he also played for your Dallas Cowboys, number 86. Yeah, big old Dan Campbell from the University of Texas. Well, Dan Campbell is now retired, no longer playing in the National Football League, and he was introduced earlier last week as the Detroit Lions' new head coach. If you listen to the previous week's episode, exactly how I feel about getting that Lions job. Like I said, love the city of Detroit. The city of Detroit has been great to me and Be Live and my brethren when we went there. But your organization stinks, all right? So with that being said, Dan Campbell is going to try his best to bring some respectability to the Lions organization. His press conference was funny, which included biting, scratching, taking chunks out of knees, getting beat up, taking 2 to the head and coming back up, and they're gonna be the last Lion standing. We shall see. Dan Campbell, a guy that barely has any coaching experience. His last coaching experience was as an interim head coach for the Miami Dolphins and the tight end coach as well too. We shall see about
that was a cringy press
D.
conference, and then they went and said, "Well, we're going to get rid of our starting quarterback." So we'll see how much getting up they are doing next year. So I'm looking at the college basketball top 25. It's college basketball season here. We're starting to really heat it up, and I don't see any North Carolina on the list, and I don't see any Duke on the list, and I don't feel too bad about that because I also don't see Pitt on the list, Eddie Cool. But I'll tell you what I did see. I saw Pitt beat Duke last week. Our boy Champagne went for 31 points against the Dukies. Pitt is now 8-3 in the ACC. They lost with they had a chance to hit one at the buzzer against Wake Forest on Saturday, and it did not go down, so they lost down. But they're 8-3. Hey man, keep an eye on our Pitt Panthers. We're getting better, Eddie Cole, climbing our way back into relevance. Might even make that March Madness tournament this year. Be Live to you.
But hold on, Scotty, before I do that, champagne supernova in the sky. I had to. We was watching that game together.
He's a bad boy.
There's our guy, Champagne. And it is. And when we always tout these guys, they come out the next day and knock them in the mouth. Oh, they do it. Just don't let me down like Mike Platinum Perry did. But yeah, over to you, Be Live.
Well. Let's put a little pepper on this. I actually had to switch up my pepper points before we started because My first pepper points was really just rants about the Green Bay Packers, which you've already heard because I couldn't save it for pepper. It was really the core of my being. I'm not a Packers fan, but it's just watching you give the game away. It's just something else. But I digress again. Doing a lot of digression today, but it is what it is. My first pepper point today is a name that's not known by many, but known by some of my Clemson diehard fans. You know, at some point in time, hashtag all roads lead to Dabo. But just such a disappointing. It's such a disappointing, yet maybe a redemption story. Hopefully, it's a redemption story. But we have a Martavis Bryant sighting. Yes, that Martavis Bryant that's been suspended for drug offenses in the NFL, as Stephen A. Smith would like to say. Stay off the weed. But yes, he has made it to the CFL, the Canadian Football League, and has signed a contract with the Toronto Argonauts. So I wish you the best of luck. Please, we're almost there. We're almost there where weed is legal. We're almost there, I guarantee you. I promise you. Just lay it up. Just hold off just a little while longer. It might be even legal in Canada already. Who knows? Maybe that's the perfect fit for you. But Martavis Bryant, come on. I'm rooting for you, bro. I've been rooting for you the entire time. And I was just like, bro, come on, get it together. Martavis Bryant, I'm rooting for you. Josh Gordon, I will not. Sir, you just, oh, boy. I just don't get it. You had it. You were signed and everything. You had just meet the conditional reinstatement, but and I've been looking for that. If anybody can find what those terms were and to see if they were absolutely unattainable, then just let me know. Hit us up on the email. I wouldn't greatly appreciate that very much. Eddie Cool, the ball.
All right, my second pepper point on this day in history back in 2003. We got Super Bowl 37, all right? Super Bowl 37, if I'm not mistaken, between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Oakland Raiders. As we know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they'll be going to this year's Super Bowl, but their previous trip, they won. They got a W. There was another team that had a pretty good defense and so at best offense. They beat the Oakland Raiders 48-21, and the MVP was Dexter Jackson. Safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Didn't he wind up getting signed by the Cowboys?
I don't remember him being with the Cowboys. He had I'm not sure. He was a heck of a player though. Yeah, we did have Dexter Coakley. Yeah.
Anyways, hey, he was a bad dude. I think he was about 4'11".
I think he is playing the linebacker. Bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that don't matter. That don't matter. 4'11". I'm gonna knock him down. Hell, Theo Fleury was like 5'6", playing Hopkins was still a butcher knife killer. But yeah, on this day in history, 2003, that's when they played the Super Bowl back in January, Scotty D. Why does it sound like an eternity ago? Yeah, back when they played the Super Bowl back in January.
All right, so
over to you, Scotty D.
The rebuild for the Pittsburgh Pirates continues as they now have said goodbye to Joe Musgrove, Josh Bell, and a few days ago they traded Jameson Taillon to the New York Yankees. So while the Pirates a few years back were talking about these two stud pitchers down in AAA ready to come up by the names of Jameson Taillon and Garrett Cole, they will now be pitching for the New York Yankees. The Yankees have some question marks at pitcher. I think this is actually going to be a good move for them because there won't be a lot of pressure on Taillon to carry the staff. They also signed Corey Kluber, coming off a question mark year. They got Domingo Germán, who had a good season 2 years ago and then was suspended last year because of domestic violence issues. The Yankees got a handful of question marks at pitcher, so I guess they're going to throw a few at the wall and see what sticks. Meanwhile, the Buccos, they're not going to field a lineup that's going to even be able to pay a year of Garrett Cole's salary. So let's go Bucks. Looking forward to a postseason appearance in 2025. Be Live, over to you.
JB coming around the mountain when she comes. All right, round two of this Pepper that we talk about. And it's a very, very familiar story. What do you do? Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association are disagreeing yet again. Go figure. One day maybe they'll get along. One day why can't we be friends? But check it out. This is actually pretty cut and dry. You knew this wasn't going to play the way that you wanted it to. Major League Baseball, stop it, cut it out. Major League Baseball proposed that there would be a universal designated hitter, like they already have in the American League, but they want to move toward that direction in the National League, which, yes, worked for one season, a shortened season, 60 games during COVID-19. But come on, bro. It's just, it's America's pastime. There's certain things they're not going to let go, and there's reasons behind it. I won't go too much in depth, but you just know we weren't headed in that direction. And also, to try to keep the expanded playoff. So now you're going from 60 games to 162 games, which is the prognosis from what I've gathered. They want to play a full season this year. I have not heard anything to the contrary. That I'll look it up. Maybe I'm wrong, but you want to do 162 games and then also have a bunch of extra games in the. Oh no, cut that out. Just stop what you're doing. You knew this wasn't gonna fly, so let's just go back to the drawing board and figure out something, and then hopefully that we won't have another work stoppage when the collective bargaining agreement ends in December 2021. Please just get along, because baseball is. It was great that we had a little shortened season and came together and figured out some things. But now, that let's get back to where we need to be. Let's take care of each other. Come on, owners. Come on, players. Let's do right. Let's keep America's pastime the great sport that it could be. And let's just do right. Eddie Cool, the ball.
All right, on this day in history, back in 1961, the great one. No, not that great one. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, was born, birthed into this world. Now, he's an ice hockey Hall of Famer. He won the Stanley Cup in 1984, 5, 7, and 1988. He was also the Hart Memorial Trophy, a.k.a. the MVP, from 1980 through 87, and once again in 89. An Art Ross Trophy winner, the scoring champion from 81 through 87. You hear this, Scotty, from 81 through 87.
So he was good, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, and then I might have been just a little bit. And then he won it in 90, 91, and 94. He also played for the Edmonton Oilers, Los Angeles Kings, that forgettable stint in St. Louis, and of course he got retired alongside his buddy Mark Messier as a member of the New York Rangers. Wayne Gretzky was born in Brantford, Ontario, Canada. One of the best to ever do it. And you want to talk about guys that have untouchable records?
Yeah,
Wayne Gretzky got about 50, 11 of them.
And also, father-in-law
over to you, Scotty D,
to the current Masters champion, Dustin Johnson.
Oh,
all right,
so
my final pepper point of the week. A year ago, on January 25th, Kobe Bryant congratulated LeBron James on Twitter for passing him on the all-time NBA scoring list, and 24 hours later, he was gone. Hard to believe it's been a year since one of the saddest days of my adult life as a Kobe Bryant fan, seeing him and his young daughter perish in a helicopter accident. hard to believe. I mean, that was the beginning of what was maybe one of the most, probably the most unforgettable year in our lifetime, Eddie. But to start it off that way, losing Kobe was definitely a very, very difficult, dark time for the world of sports. And the Lakers are going to not do anything, I think, to commemorate it, because they said they don't want to distract from the current team and relive that darkness. But to this day, though, when they break the huddle, they're all yelling Mamba on 3. So Kobe Bryant lives on in Laker lore. And a year later, man, we miss you, Kobe. We miss you, Black Mamba. Be Live, over to you.
Well. Yes. And this may have been reported before, but I want just to nail this third pepper point in the head. And just basically, this is where life as we know it is headed. And let me start off by saying this real quick. For our listeners out there, which a majority of you would remember what Blockbuster was. Who was the idiot that turned down the streaming service for Blockbuster and was saying that people were still going to come out and get DVDs and all this other stuff? Boy, y'all feeling especially dumb today, because everything is streaming. Even to the point where streaming services are now taking over other streaming services in lieu of the, again, being one great conglomerate. But NBC has been pushing their Peacock streaming service, which is be to compete with your Disney Pluses, your ESPN Pluses, your Hulu's, your Netflix, your CBS All Access. Every channel now, every major broadcasting channel now has a streaming service. And you know how some of these conglomerates work. Again, ABC, ESPN, Disney, CBS, Nickelodeon, MTV, that's that Viacom conglomerate. And NBC has the USA, and there's some other things. They got that's the Universal conglomerate, which would include parts of WWE. But it has been now announced that come March 21st of this year, that the WWE Network, which they have been so inclined to let us know can get for only $9.95, is now moving to the Peacock streaming network, and is available with commercials included in the Peacock Plus platform for now, $4.95, which is very, very interesting that WWE would go that route. But WWE reaches I think they have around 1.1 million subscribers. Peacock has already jumped out there and has 22 million subscribers. So much bigger audience, and you can also get the WWE Contact commercial free through Peacock Premium for $9.95. So you might be paying the same price as if you just switch over, so the two worlds become one. Ta-da! And the WWE gets slightly richer in the tune that NBC pays WWE $1 billion for this. So streaming, and more streaming. Friends, WWE, NBC, Peacock. Can I get some of that advertisement money that I just gave them free advertising? Well, all three of us are wrestling guys, so it is what it is. Talk to a brother. I'm trying to figure out something new, something different, so if this might work out for me. And yes sir.
All right, that's another exciting, exhilarating, exaltations. Learn that from Mike Doc Emmerich. Round of Pepper. You know how we do it right around this time. We like to tell you thank you for listening to another episode of the Sports Bros Podcast, episode number 93, not too far away from episode 100. Scotty D, can you believe this? Some some podcasts.
Well, we're coming up on 2 years here.
Episode.
It's been fun. I still enjoy doing these things. I would say as much as you do.
Yeah, man, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. You know, the editing is fun, and getting to hear some of the bloopers and the outtakes and the opinions, and it's just a very fun. It's just a very fun thing to do, and I feel, Scotty, that is my purpose on this earth, is to talk sports with you guys, and then supply the rest of the world with some of my editing skills. Well, I'm still learning. I'm not a pro, you know.
Hey, Eddie, we appreciate you, man.
Takes time.
You do a good job with it. All things considered, yeah. Glad to have you on our team there, brother. And I tell you, man, you know, as dark a year as it was last year for everyone, you know, even in the sports world, you know, the sports world took some hits last year. March Madness canceled, and a couple golf tournaments canceled, and you know, the NBA and NHL reworked, you know, delayed, all that stuff. And we're trying to get some normalcy to this year, and you're starting to see a little bit of it. And Eddie, did you notice how nice it was to have some fans in stands during the NFL playoff games? And even, I don't think you saw it, but UFC had some fans. They were in Abu Dhabi in their stands for Conor McGregor's fight. And it's just nice to have a little of that energy and electricity back live. And hopefully they'll be able to safely continue to do that until we get this nation vaccinated, back on track here later in the year.
Yeah, because I saw that and I was like, are those people? Wait a minute, are those people?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the capacities that they're allowing, but there are going to be some people at the Super Bowl, and thank God for that, because, you know, like I said, we were watching the NBA Finals where there was nobody in the stands, and they did a great job with the way they handled it with the bubble and the creating the atmosphere and all that stuff. And it was nice to have sports and not have that championship canceled. But at the same time, it sure is going to be nice to have some people actually watching the Super Bowl live. And so, like I said, hopefully we are able to continue to go on the right path here. I hope these vaccinations start to do their job the way we're really needing them to do them. And so maybe this time next year we'll have fans all the way back. So we'll see. Oh, that'd be
who
great.
knows? We might even be in the stands too. Scotty D, you mentioned something that I forgot to, and I kind of glazed over. The Matthew Stafford situation. The Lions and Matthew Stafford's like, yeah, it's time to go. Scotty, I think it's long overdue, and yeah, he needs to go, at least salvage somewhat of his career, because the Lions have did nothing but Peter's entire career down the leg. Scotty, what you think about the whole Matthew Stafford situation? Well,
it's going to be interesting to see that, because at the same time you feel like, you know, Deshaun Watson could be out there. So you got two, you know, very accomplished quarterbacks that might be coming available. I think for Matthew Stafford, the key is going to be Indianapolis. I think that's the team that would be most ready for him at this point in his career, just because, you know, Philip Rivers did an admirable job with the Colts, and that was a team that was good enough to almost knock off the Bills, who many of us thought were the second best team in the AFC this year. The Colts aren't that far away. They've got some good, you know, some good pieces there. So I think he'd be a good fit there. You know, I've heard maybe New England, but I don't think New England I think he'd be stepping into the same situation as Tom Brady walked out of and that Cam Newton dealt with this year. And there's just not enough talent offensively around him. And to get him, they'd have to give up some draft capital. So I don't think that would be a good fit there. Whereas I think Indianapolis might be the key. And I heard Deshaun Watson say he's interested in being a Jet, but I think the Jets have too many needs, and to give up their draft capital to get him, I think would be detrimental. I think Deshaun Watson stays put. Maybe possibly Miami, but I think Deshaun Watson's going to stay put.
I think I wouldn't mind seeing you might hate this, but I wouldn't mind seeing Matthew Stafford,
that could be too. But again, I think Washington's another team that's not as close. Whereas I think the Colts are closer, and Miami's actually, I think, getting closer. I mean, Miami won 10 games this year. You know, we forget that, you know, how good they were because they didn't make the playoffs. I think Miami could plug him in and be, you know, an AFC contender. I don't know that the Redskins. or the Washington football team, I should say. I don't know if they're close enough yet. I kind of feel like
Yeah.
they're going to look to the draft, but who knows? Maybe they would like to go in that direction.
One thing that we know, man, anything is possible.
You'll
All right,
find
Scotty,
me
let's
at
get up
home.
out of here, Scotty. Where can they find you?
I'll let you know more about what's going on with me and my future. But, always check me out on Facebook. Check us out on the Sports Bros page on Facebook. That's where we like to interact with you guys. Keep an eye out for our Choices of the Voice question, because I love to post that right around midweek. So, and just thank you all for listening to us.
Yeah, midweek. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, I go by the name of Eddie Cool, aka the HOC. I'm not going to tell you where all you can find me, because guess what? If you look further down in this description box, there's 5 links. I uploaded episode 92 to the YouTube channel. Hopefully we're gonna get some visual videos in here one day, some more clips, and put a little bit more love on that. But yeah, you can catch me at all of those Sports Bros podcast links, and also check me out on the Sports Me app. My name on there is SportBro19. It's kind of like TikTok, but we just talking sports, and ain't nobody doing no dances, no political stuff, ain't nobody getting mad, nobody, just a bunch of people together talking sports and winning battles, just having overall fun. But don't forget, check me out, SportBro19 at the Sports Me app. All right, Scotty D, you got anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Hey, you know what? I actually listened to the Sports Bros podcast last week on YouTube. That was kind of cool, Eddie Cool. That's a new thing that we got going on there.
Yeah, man, that's what we do. Hey, man, we're trying to be all over the place. We're not going to spread ourselves thin, but hey, wherever there's a chance for anybody to listen, to engage, and to enjoy, yeah, that's what we'll be at. And some guy named Scott Donnelly left a comment and said they are awesome. We appreciate Scott Donnelly for he's a good fella for leaving that comment as well too. All right, and for the Almighty Beeline, for the Money Man Scotty D, this be the HOC Eddie Cool. And in closing, do something nice for yourself, and if you can, do something nice for someone else. They'll greatly appreciate it. Now more than ever, be a blessing and not a burden. This is another episode of the Sports
Roll
Bros
Tide, Uncle Max. Roll
podcast.
Tide.